So here's an unpopular opinion. We should stop giving these mysterious names romanticizing serial killers. That's a comment I came across under a documentary video about, well, serial killers. And honestly, I never thought about it till that moment. I mean, I've watched the documentaries, heard the names, the Night Stalker, the Zodiac, Son of Sam, said them out loud without ever stopping to ask, wait, why do these people have names that sound like comic book villains? So I started researching, and I found something really intriguing. Also, I would genuinely love to hear your stance on this. Let's start with something uncomfortable. You've heard of Ted Bundy. You probably know what he looked like. You might even know details about his crimes that you never consciously decided to learn. Now, name one of his victims. Take your time. Most people can't. And that gap, that massive telling gap between how much we know about the killer and how little we know about the people he killed, is exactly where this story starts. Here's why that gap exists. Your brain naturally builds stories around a central character. One face, one name, one thread to follow. Villains are characters. Characters are memorable. And we have been obsessed with our villains since long before Netflix existed and even since long before television. Dragons, monsters, demons, every culture in human history has built myths around its darkest figures and held a strange, magnetic fascination over the people who heard their stories. So the fascination with serial killers isn't new. The delivery system just got better. The media didn't create this, it discovered it, and then learned how to profit from it. Here's how the profiting started. Before Netflix, before the internet, there were newspapers. And newspapers had a problem. They needed people to buy them. So when a series of brutal murders started happening in London in 1888, the press didn't just report the murders, it turned them into a story. They took a letter, possibly fake, possibly written by a journalist himself, signed it Jack the Ripper, and the story exploded. Because here's what they discovered. A nameless killer is frightening. A named killer is a story, and a story sells. It worked so well that some killers started doing it themselves. The Zodiac named himself in letters sent directly to newspapers. Dennis Rader, BTK, Bind Torture Kill, chose his own name because he was frustrated his murders weren't getting enough attention. He wanted the name, he wanted the fame, and the system built to give people exactly what they wanted gave it to him. Now, here's what these names are actually doing. Night Stalker, Zodiac, Son of Sam, Golden State Killer, every single one removes the human being and replaces them with a myth. You stop thinking about a middle-aged man who worked at a church and coached youth sports, and start thinking about something shadowy, unknowable, almost supernatural. The name helps you do the romanticization for you. Because humans process the world through stories, and stories need characters. Jack the Ripper isn't a person, it's a character, a brand, a myth. Something your brain can file under fascinating villain rather than a man who destroyed real families. That's not an accident, that's the oldest trick in storytelling. Give the monster a name, give it a mythology, watch the audience lean in. Fast forward to now, the Dahmer series on Netflix, the dramatized story of Jeffrey Dahmer, became one of the most watched English language series Netflix had ever produced. Over 1 billion hours viewed. A show about a man who murdered and cannibalized 17 people, watched by more people than almost anything else on the platform. And then something happened that nobody wanted to say out loud. People started calling Dahmer attractive. Fan accounts appeared, TikToks were made, because Netflix cast Evan Peters, a conventionally attractive actor with a massive fan base, to play him. And your brain, the easily influenced thing that it is, started associating the face it found appealing with the character on screen. Several victims' family members later publicly criticized the series and questioned whether it should ever have been made. Whatever the intention, the result was the same. A murderer became a cultural moment, merchandise, memes, Halloween costumes, and the true crime boom continued. And it's not just Netflix. Right now, there are thousands of YouTube channels dedicated entirely to documentary-style content about serial killers. Millions of views, millions of subscribers, regular people just like you and me building entire audiences around these stories. The celebrity machine is no longer controlled by major studios. It's been fully democratized. Anyone with a microphone and a Wi-Fi connection can make a killer famous now. And here's a thought that genuinely unsettled me. These killers are still out there, some of them. They have phones, they have internet access, and a very obvious reason to search their own names. Which means there's a very real chance that some of them have watched every documentary, every video, every breakdown made about them, sitting somewhere watching themselves become legends. So, hi, if any of you are watching. Moving on. So, why do serial killers become celebrities when other criminals don't? Financial criminals rarely become cultural icons. Burglars don't get Netflix series. Same thing, but we don't make fraudsters celebrities. Well, sometimes we do, but what makes serial killers different? 4 things specifically. Mystery. Most operated completely undetected for years, sometimes decades. Nobody knew who they were, and unsolved mysteries are impossible to walk away from. Pattern. Their crimes repeat. There's a signature, a method, an MO. Your brain desperately wants to find the logic in something that has no logic, and it keeps looking. Manhunt. There's a chase, investigators, evidence, dead ends, breakthroughs. It has the structure of a thriller because it essentially is one, except it's real. And finally, they're never fully explained. Even after capture, even after trial, even after every documentary and every book, nobody can fully answer why. So why do we keep watching? 2 reasons. First, morbid curiosity. Your brain is wired to try to understand threats. A serial killer represents extreme violence and psychological traits most people struggle to comprehend. You watch because you're trying to understand something that resists understanding. And that unresolved loop is what keeps pulling you back. Second, safe fear. The actual risk of encountering a serial killer is extraordinarily low. But the fear they generate is completely disproportionate to that. Because fear, when it's safe, when you're on your couch in control, able to pause, actually feels good. The adrenaline, the tension, the relief when it ends. And then there's something called hybristophilia, a psychological phenomenon where some people develop attraction toward those who have committed serious crimes. Some psychologists suggest it may connect to the way power and danger have been portrayed through media for decades. You're not attracted to the crime, you're attracted to the character that someone else spent years carefully constructing for you. So, back to that original comment. Should we stop giving them cool names? Honestly, it's more complicated than that. Some of these labels served a real purpose. The BTK name gave investigators and the public a common way to refer to connected cases that might otherwise have seemed completely unrelated. The Zodiac letters kept investigators on the case for decades. These names started as tools, but somewhere between tool and mythology, something shifted. And the question isn't really about the names anymore. It's about what we choose to center. Because right now, you know the Night Stalker. Do you know the name of a single one of his victims? That's not an attack. It's just the honest result of a system that discovered a very long time ago that monsters sell better than people. Serial killers became celebrities for the same reason dragons, monsters, and villains dominated human stories for thousands of years. Human attention has always been drawn toward danger. The only thing that changed was the delivery system. And right now, that delivery system is faster, louder, and more profitable than it has ever been. So the next time you find yourself 3 episodes deep into a documentary about someone who did something unforgivable, just remember that somewhere there is a family that never asked to be a part of the story, who just want their person remembered, not the monster, the person. Drop your thoughts in the comments, I want to know where you stand. Be bold, be soft, but above all, stay human. I'm Wi-Fi, stay connected.